What's up, everybody? This is Passion 9. And tonight, I want to talk about one of my all-time favorite anime titles. Welcome to the NHK. Gonzo put this out back in 2006, so it's a bit old, you know. It's from the 2000s decade. Thing about Gonzo is that a lot of their stuff is shit. A lot of their older anime, a lot of the stuff they've made is pretty bad. Like, they're not a great studio, normally. But there are a little handful of gems that they've put out over the years, and one of them is Welcome to the NHK. It's still, to this day, my all-time favorite slice of life anime. And when people say slice of life, of course, that's referring to a genre of anime that deals with very grounded themes. It's very, true to everyday life. Whether that's something that's meant to be chill and relaxing, or just purely comical, or, in the case of this show, something that is more existential. It has some dramatic elements to it, but is also pretty hilarious. You know, it's kind of taken a crack at life itself. It's got things to say. It's a show with a message. Also, I'm drinking. Oh, sadly, I'm out of booze. This Bacardi is empty. I'm very sad about that. Very sad. But that's life. And Welcome to the NHK is about life. NHK, by the way, is a reference to a broadcast network in Japan. The main hook of the show, the main thorough line here is that, or maybe I should say the inciting incident, is that the main character, Sato, he's 22, I believe 22, and he's a college dropout who suffers severe anxiety. He has social phobia. He has recessed himself from everyday life, from the outside world, because he doesn't believe he's good enough. He's become an underachiever. As a term that gets thrown around a lot in this anime, and in a lot of slice of life anime of this type, it's a real life term over there in Japan, is hikikimori, which could also be another term for it is NEET, NEET, which means an unemployed, somebody who is out of work and is living completely at home or whatever, Basically, a shut-in nerd is what that means in Japan. A hikikimori. Basically me. That's what I've become these days. Wasn't always the case, but that is one of the things about this show that I bring up, is that it's very personal to me, because when I first saw this shit, I was 20. I want to say 20 years old. I discovered it way back in 2010 when I first started streaming anime online, and even by that point, it was quite a few years old. It's good 5 years or so that it's been around, and I was really digging into a lot of more sophisticated, more off the beaten path anime, not just giant robots and kamehamehas. I was looking for shit that was really off the beaten path, And Welcome to the NHK was one of the first online anime I streamed, next to Death Note and Eva. So it was a little bit of a shock to the system, because so much of it was so relatable at the time. I was this young dude who was a high school dropout. I didn't taste college yet, but I was a high school dropout who Had not yet had a diploma or anything. I was very aimless, very wayward, and it resonated with me on several levels then. But even more so now, rewatching it again for the first time in ages, I'm like fucking devastated by it because it's so. I mean, I'm fucking 31 for one thing, and right back where I was. I'm a fucking hikikomori again, which is why this channel even exists, because I need something to do. So talking to y'all is something. Uh, so watching it again is like, okay, yeah, this is very true to life. This is very well written, very sophisticated anime indeed. It's based on a manga, which itself was based on a novel. So it was adapted twice. And I can say, even though all three adaptations have different endings and kind of go in slightly different directions, they all have the same underlying theme of like, it's not just about Sato, the main character, this college dropout dude who ends up becoming kind of a hermit, uh, but keeps seeking ways to get back into society, which is hella relatable to me and probably plenty of other freaking people out there these days. Um, he's trying to get back into society, but he keeps meeting other characters who are just as flawed, and in many cases, have gotten back into society, but through very superficial means, or in ways that have left them even more depressed or even more unhappy than he is, which it just like escalates his own stress. He's like, no matter what I do, I can't find people to help me because they're just as bad a shape. Um, and some of them are old college friends that he went to school with. And, he finds out, like, oh, they seem successful. They seem to be doing better than me. But, oh, they're on a shit ton of pills. Okay, well, maybe not. And it's a very woke show. I don't mean woke in the shitty sense, like a lot of shit nowadays. I mean woke like it's honest. It's very real about, like, yeah, existing sucks. It can be great, but existing generally is very fucking hard. And life is very hard. And trying to find some kind of self-value or purpose can be difficult. It's not an easy thing to attain. Uh, it's a very good show about navigating, like, how do you become complacent with yourself, right? Which might sound pretty broad, and it is, but the characters are hella likable and very relatable, and it's got a great vibe. It's got a great existential vibe about it. It might as well be This Is Us, the anime, essentially. If you want slice of life that, like, is, like, ground level, like, yeah, it's hard. Life's fucking hard, man. Expectations versus reality. Welcome to the NHK is great with that. I'm not saying it's the only anime that's ever hit that note, but it's definitely, to this day, the only thing I've seen that quite hits it as hard as this does. And, the ending to the anime adaptation is certainly more positive and optimistic than the ending to the novel, which I hear is hella depressing. um, but it has a pretty good message overall, despite the angst, about, like, yeah, nobody really has the answer. No matter, like, what we're doing or how we succeed, none of these adults really have the answer. You have to find that for yourself. It's a pretty good show. Like, I highly recommend it. The animation is, it's Gonzo, so it starts out at a pretty high note. It gets by mostly on the art, the character designs and such. The girl Misaki that Sato runs into, that's just a few years younger than him, is a cutie. And when I first saw the show, her character I identified more with than any other, for reasons I won't spoil. But this guy Sato, nothing gets him out of his apartment. Nothing gets him to, remotivate himself until he meets this girl who tries to school him. She kind of creates this program for him where it's like, meet me in the park and I will be your counselor. You're under my contract. If you don't show up, you're gonna have to pay me 1,000,000 yen. And he just kind of goes along with it. She's like this younger, she's slightly younger than him. And he's just like, you know what? I'm so fucking depressed and deadbeat. Fuck it. I'll take this girl to her word and I'll indulge her bullshit. But he starts to actually get something out of it. He starts to learn things more about himself as he discovers more and more that this girl also has her problems and is actually trying to work out her own issues by doing this. So there's a great little back and forth between these two characters. They kind of represent the main thorough line of this whole show. And it's a whole 24 episodes, which is pretty long by modern TV standards. But I highly recommend it because the characters are just freaking great. The otaku dude that lives next door to Sato is funny. There's a whole arc involving these two dudes bonding over stupid nerdy shit. And then that becomes he tries to become a game designer after he meets this dude. He finds out he's his neighbor, and that gets sort of wrapped up in the whole underlying theme of what do you need to motivate you? What is the key to motivation to becoming a successful person in society and getting out of your own doldrums and self-indulgence? That is the sort of underlying theme of this show, and I highly recommend it because as far as anime goes, or just TV in general, it's really good at conveying this theme of, what gets you out there, what does it take, and going to others is not necessarily the answer, for the reasons that you might think. Maybe you're learning more from those people just by observing rather than what they have to say. You know what I mean? That we're all in the same shit. You know what I mean? We're all the same turmoil, regardless of where we're at. And it's a great show about depression, about stress, about the anxiety of, making the most of yourself. And for that reason, as somebody who continues to suffer under the weight of such things, as I'm sure many of us out there do, yeah, I recommend it. Give it a watch. It might sting a little, but the best dramas often do. So give it a watch. You might laugh a little too. Welcome to the NHK. Also has a great soundtrack. Lots of really good music. The main theme, I want to say it's called, I don't remember there's a song in this show about depression that is one of the best I've ever heard, involving guitar, that you absolutely have to listen to. I want to say it's called Welcome to Loneliness or something like that, but check it out. The whole show is really good. Just give it a watch. And this video has gone on way too long, so till next time, live for the passion from the otaku underworld's passion.